I asked my boyfriend why he kept cheating on me. His answer completely broke me. So me, 30F, and my ex-boyfriend, 32M, were together for over 3 years. After 1 year of us being official, I discovered that he was cheating on me. I was devastated, but I also believe in second chances. I desperately wanted to give our relationship another shot, so I forgave him. That moment kick-started the downward spiral of our relationship. I would discover him cheating on a regular basis with multiple different people. Every time I would confront him, he was honest with me. Because he was upfront, I would always give him another chance. I believed that, because he was honest, what he was doing wasn't that bad. After this catastrophe of a relationship dragged on for the next 2 years, I finally reached my breaking point. 2 days ago, I was in the bedroom and he was in the living room watching TV. I peeked at his phone that was charging on the nightstand. I saw that he had created a new dating profile and was sexting other women. I felt so defeated. This had happened so many times and I just couldn't figure out why he was hurting me. I came out of the bedroom sobbing and confronted him for the millionth time. He was completely unfazed and just sat there calmly listening to me. I blurted out, "Why are you doing this to me? Don't you love me? I do so much for you. I cook, clean, have sex with you, support you. Everything. What else can I possibly do? Just please tell me, why?" He looked me dead in the eye with zero emotion and said, "Because I know that you won't do anything about it." I don't know why, but what he said opened my eyes for the first time. He was absolutely right. I knew right then and there that I was letting him walk all over me. He didn't need to come up with bullshit excuses, deny it, or even hide it from me. So here I am, sitting alone in my parents' house, feeling like the biggest and weakest loser on the planet. You didn't deserve any of that. And his reasoning that you wouldn't do anything about it is just downright disgusting. I'm ashamed of being the same sex as that sack of bones and flesh. Doesn't even deserve to be called a man. You deserve better. You will find someone who will be better. Do not let this sorry excuse for a human being destroy your self-esteem further. Get some professional help and you will overcome this and come back stronger and an improved version of yourself. Story 2. My dad is furious that my mom slept with other people in an open marriage he wanted. My parents got married when they were super young. My dad knocked up my mom and their parents married them off. My grandfather was able to set up some business for my dad in a big city, and they moved here soon after my birth. My mom grew up in a conservative southern town where she was taught to be a submissive wife. And even after moving to the big city, she didn't spend much time socializing. She had no friends and never went out. My dad was only there to provide for us. He was always away on business, and he wasn't there as a husband for my mom or as a father to me. My dad made a lot of money, so we never lacked anything. Growing up, I became my mom's best friend. We would talk about everything. I pushed her to make friends and to find hobbies. After years of pushing, she started going to a nearby park and made her first friend, a gym trainer. Encouraged by her friend and me, she decided to join the gym. She met a few more people there and started having some semblance of a social life, but she still continued to tell me everything. I think my dad's new secretary gave him the idea, but he asked my mom for an open marriage almost a year ago. He told her he wasn't happy in their marriage and that she wasn't providing him with everything he wanted. My mom, who is a Christian wife, was mortified and told me about the proposal in tears. I suggested she get a divorce, but she said she didn't believe in it and she wouldn't be the one to end their marriage. As my dad pushed, I knew exactly where this would end up if my mom agreed. Her friend and I convinced her. My mom was hesitant at first, but she agreed with the condition that they would be completely transparent with each other. My dad was a middle-aged, 41, man with a belly, and my mom, 39, was an athletic woman who worked out regularly. I'm a 22-years-old woman BTW. I don't know how my dad was so blind or what he thought would happen. I helped create online dating profiles for my mom almost 6 months ago. After getting an insane number of matches, choosing from them and chatting with them for months, my mom started hooking up with a few people. Getting all this attention has provided a massive boost to her confidence, and she seems better. My dad hooked up with his secretary almost immediately. He's had very little luck with other ladies. With their transparency thing, my mom tells him about all her hookups. A few weeks ago, my dad screamed at my mom for some minor thing. Usually, my mom would have apologized, but with her new confidence, she didn't back down. It's been constant fights the last few weeks. My dad keeps starting fights by making snide remarks about my mom's clothing or appearance. He almost even called my mom a whore but stopped himself. I think open marriage finally sunk in. My mom told me he tried to have a conversation about stopping their open marriage, but she immediately shot it down. I think they'll split up. My dad was never there for either of us, but the thought of my parents splitting up still feels weird. I don't feel bad for my dad, but I wish he put effort into his family. I'm happy for my mom though. Update. A few days after my previous post, my dad left our home and had a divorce served to mom in a week. My grandparents didn't know about any of this, but my dad told them when he served the divorce. He also implied to them that my mom was cheating on him. Both sets of grandparents came to our home and started berating my mom. I kept screenshots of all my parents' communications, and my mom showed them to them, and it got way worse after that. Grandparents started fighting each other, blaming each other's children for causing all this. A few days after this, my mom's old church friends came to our home. Back when my mom used to go to church, they used to look down on her for being from a small town. My mom has always been a very caring and non-judgmental person, so she disagreed with their bigotry and they began excluding her from their activities. After she met her gym friends, my mom stopped going to church entirely. These church friends started calling my mom a slut and she kicked them out. My mom is on a cut right now, so she has very defined abs and arms. So along with all the normal stuff getting thrown at her, my grandparents accused her of having a man body, and she also had a lot of random transphobia thrown at her. Her trainer friend has been a great support through all this. She contacted the attorney she used for her divorce, and my mom is spending a lot of time at her house. Turns out, the business my dad is running is owned by mom. It was set up by my mom's dad in her name, so it belongs to her. I did not know this until now and assumed that my dad owned it. The whole situation is a huge mess right now. Dad is living in some hotel and my grandparents left yesterday after a week of fighting and trying to force my parents back together. I know there's a lot more divorce drama to come, but I hope it calms down for now. Honestly, I might just sit down with some popcorn to watch this implosion. So he basically wanted his wife's permission to bang his secretary, and when that didn't work, he thought his reserve. In other words, the wife would be so grateful he came back to her that she would what? Immediately end all the attention and self-confidence she'd obtained? Obviously you dad never did his research. In open marriages it's almost always easier for the woman to find a date than a man. Story 3. My wife went out last night and didn't come home until this morning. This is horrible, I'm furious right now. But I'm also depressed as hell. I know what I have to do, it's just killing me that I have to do it. It's fresh, and it hurts a lot. My wife didn't come home last night. She went out with a couple of girlfriends, which is pretty normal for her. She's normally back around 2 a.m. on these nights, so I waited up. Around 2:30, I called to check in. She answered, and I could hear people in the background. She told me they went to a party but were leaving in a couple of minutes. She wasn't home by 3, so I texted. It delivered, but no reply. Around 4 a.m. I called again. It rang a couple of times before she sent me to voicemail. My wife finally came stumbling through the door at 6:47 a.m. this morning. I know the exact time because I was worried. She was wearing a dress she didn't leave the house in, with mesh leggings I've never seen either. The leggings had clearly been torn, and her makeup was smudged. My heart sank when I saw her. My immediate worry was that she had been assaulted. She only shook her head no when I asked her that. I asked her what she had been doing then. She only said that I knew what she had been doing, and that kind of confirmed what the voice in the back of my head had been screaming since she walked in. My wife cheated on me last night. I asked her who it was. She shrugged almost casually and said it was somebody they met at the club. She went back to his house and hooked up with him, then Ubered home. She then said she didn't want to fight and just wanted to sleep. So that's what she did. She's still asleep now, and didn't even take a shower before passing out. Suffice to say, our relationship is over. We don't have any kids, and we rent, so it shouldn't be an extremely complicated process. I keep trying to reason myself out of it, pretending there might be something to salvage here. I've always maintained that cheating would be a red line for me though. I think I need to stick to that now. Update. I think I went through all of the stages of grief while my soon-to-be ex was sleeping. I had processed things a bit more, and I had a rough plan in my head that I was starting to set in motion. I made a short list of questions I wanted answers to, gathered up all my important documents, laptop, etc. Then I went into the bedroom and started packing myself a suitcase. I know a lot of folks wanted me to kick her out. I did consider it, but honestly I'm not overly attached to this place. We just rent, and I'm in a lucky enough situation to be able to say that paying half the rent for a few months isn't going to financially end me. It'll sting a little bit, I won't lie. But I'll make it, and I feel like being around this place is only going to remind me of her anyway. I need to be looking forward, not back. She ended up waking up about halfway through me packing my suitcase. There was momentary confusion as she looked around the room, then she just started bawling. Maybe this is awful of me, but I didn't bother comforting her. I told her I had the screenshots of her Uber and text messages from her phone, and that plus her confirmation was enough that things between us were completely done. She didn't answer me, and just cried louder. I debated trying to continue the conversation, but I decided to just pack the rest of my suitcase and head back out to the living room until she came out. When she finally left the bedroom, she sat next to me on the couch and asked me if we could talk things through. I told her as calmly as possible that wasn't how things were going to work. I was going to ask questions, I wanted honest answers. She told me she'd be honest, so I proceeded. My voice was shaking the entire time. It was taking me everything to hold it together, but I kept going. Was this the first time she had cheated? She started crying before she answered that, then told me no. She had cheated on me multiple times over the course of our relationship. It was, and I'm going to use her words exactly here, just sex, a way for me to let off steam. None of it ever meant anything. I wrote a comment shortly after making my post that all the love couldn't just fade away in one swoop. Well, it can. It hit me right then that I wasn't dealing with my wife. The person I was married to literally wasn't in the room. This was someone different. She refused to tell me exactly how many times she had cheated, just more than last night. Had she used protection? No hesitation from her before she nodded her head emphatically. She seemed surprised I'd even ask that. I'm still going to get tested just to be safe. I did some research into timing and I'm going to look after it. Were her friends also cheating on their spouses? Yes, And no. I tried to get her to tell me which of her friends were cheating so I could get in contact with their spouses. She probably should have, because her refusal led to me messaging pretty much the romantic partner of every one of her girlfriends I could find on social media. There are a couple I don't know or couldn't find, but I did my part. Why did she do it? This was the answer that gutted me the most. I'm going to use her exact words again. I need to have sexual variety. I told her that it's not like our sex life is dull. She clarified. It's not the same as something new. I didn't even have a response to that one. I had expected something about me working too much, or not supporting her emotionally. Nope. She just fucked other guys because she felt like it and wanted to have some fun. When I didn't respond, she started asking me about counseling and therapy. I reiterated that our relationship was over. I'd be leaving. What she did next disgusted me. My ex actually tried to have sex with me. She put her hands on me and started trying to take off my clothes. I felt like I wanted to vomit and pushed her away after a couple of seconds. She just kept telling me that she would figure out a way to fix it, that we would work through it together. I told her that there was no way, and she started bawling again. She went to the bathroom and locked herself inside. I was just sick of everything at that point. I called her mother and told her what was going on. The full story too, the cheating, the questions I had asked, and the fact I was leaving. I've always had a good relationship with my ex's parents. They both decided to drive to town, which is about an hour for them. Once I knew someone was on the way, I just grabbed my things and left. Her waterworks in the bathroom were just annoying me because it felt hollow to me, especially given the answers to my questions. I ended up packing another bag before I left, and took all the things that I could think of that I felt sentimental attachment to, with me. I found a parking lot and sat in my car until I was able to get in contact with a buddy for a place to crash. I tried to take a nap, but I was running on way too much adrenaline. I knew when her parents had made it to the apartment because she started calling me. When I didn't answer those, she started texting me. She had gone from sad and crying to furious. Apparently, I'm a piece of shit for telling her mom everything. Whoops. I'm not sorry. I've received roughly 100 texts from her since leaving. They range from name-calling all the way to begging me to come back, to sending me pictures of the food she ate for some reason. I haven't responded to any of them. I feel like I said my piece before leaving. So that's where I'm at now. We didn't have joint finances, so that part was easy. I canceled all the subscriptions that go to my credit card just to be sure, and changed all my important passwords. I'm crashing on a friend's couch for the next bit, but I've got some feelers out to some short-term rental places until I can find something more permanent. I've got feelers out for a divorce attorney too. A coworker of mine had a recommendation, so barring something better I'll probably go with them. Last update, my ex and I both signed the final papers for our divorce this week. It feels kind of surreal to think about that still. About 2 weeks into everything, she got resistant. I cut her off entirely and she refused to return my attorney's calls for a little while. Eventually things got back on track. As for the infidelity itself, I don't have a ton more details to share with you. We did a short mediation, and by that time I didn't feel there was any remorse on her end. I've talked about that a lot with my therapist. I'm in therapy, by the way. It still hurts that someone who I thought loved me could have apparently cared about me so little, but I'm working through it. Reading this, you are definitely well rid of her. Now enjoy the rest of your life and find someone who loves, respects and cherishes you. Story 4. After 18 years of marriage, I just found out that my children aren't mine. My wife Kelly and I have known each other for over 20 years and have been married for 18 years. We have 17-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, and I found out that they aren't mine 2 days ago. My kids got those ancestry tests for the family and we found out that I am not their father. Kelly and I met each other as co-workers at a job right out of college. We both were very ambitious, so after working for a couple of years, we decided to start our own business. We fell in love, and a year after starting out business, we got married. A couple of months into marriage, we had a massive fight over the direction we wanted to take our business in, and I left our home. She came to me a couple of weeks later, and we compromised. We've been inseparable ever since. Kelly got pregnant around that time. We've been through thick and thin, our business has been through several hardships, but we weathered them together. We were always there for each other, we could always depend on each other. I loved her so much. She was a part of me and I couldn't even imagine a life without her. I trusted her absolutely until this happened. Kelly has been crying and apologizing constantly. She told me that during the time we had that fight at the start of our marriage, she got drunk one night and slept with a random guy, and that she has not cheated on me since. The betrayal has left me disoriented. I told Kelly I needed time to process this and I'm currently staying at a hotel. I don't know what I'm even doing anymore, the last 2 days have been a blur. I feel like a zombie, completely unable to feel or process anything. I don't intend to abandon my kids, I might not be their father, but I'm still their dad and I love them dearly. Right now, I'm sitting on my hotel bed and I have not eaten anything today. My thoughts are a mess, so I'm writing this down to help me process. Kelly has always been a great wife and an excellent business partner. I don't know if I'll be able to look at her the same again or if I'll be the same person again. I don't know how to move forward. Update. The day after my post, I called my children and told them I loved them. They were scared that I might leave them. I told them that they're still my children even though I'm not their biological father and that I won't be abandoning them. I just needed to think about my relationship with their mother. I saw several comments telling me that they're not my children because they don't have my DNA, but it matters very little to me. I raised them and they're my children. I spent thinking about how to move forward with Kelly after that. I was angry that she hid the fact that she slept with someone else after we got married. I calmed down and really thought about the whole situation. I really wanted to call my lawyer to talk about separation, but I kept thinking about our life together, so I decided to talk to Kelly and give her a chance. I called her and went back home the next day. My kids were thrilled to see me and we spent some time together. Kelly and I went up to our room after that. I didn't speak to her properly since we saw the results. I gave her time to talk. Kelly told me that it had never even occurred to her that the kids couldn't be mine. She told me that when we had the fight early in our marriage, she was angry at me leaving over a business dispute, and after waiting for me to return, she went to a bar one day and got wasted. She picked up some guy and didn't remember much that happened that night. The guy was gone before she woke up the next day and she felt extremely guilty after that. She wanted to tell me but was afraid that I would leave her. To be fair, I was a hot-headed and stubborn guy back then, so I probably would have filed for a divorce without a second thought. To her, it was a drunken mistake that would never come out, so she didn't want to risk our marriage. And I would have never found out about it if she didn't get pregnant that night. She broke down multiple times and apologized constantly throughout the conversation. I believe her story. Kelly has been my rock and partner throughout my life, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her. We trusted each other absolutely. This ordeal has made a massive dent in my belief in her as a wife, but I still trust her as a partner. We had long conversations about our future and I told her I was willing to give us a chance. I made it clear that we might not succeed and I might leave, but I was willing to try. I assured my children that no matter what happened with my marriage, I would always love them and be their father. We decided to give marriage counseling a try. My wife asked a therapist friend of hers and she recommended a counselor. We have appointments starting next week. This is so awful. I am so sincerely sorry you're dealing with this. I personally don't have any meaningful or useful advice for your relationship aside from the fact I think counseling is a very good and necessary step, regardless of where you two decide to take your marriage. What I will say is I lost my dad in October. I took an ancestry test, mostly for the health results and to see the parts of the world we came from, about a month ago. Even though I personally had no doubt that my father was my father, and he was for anyone wondering, I did think about this situation while waiting for the results. I never even suspected he wasn't my father, I had no reason to. However, as many of these as I've seen, I decided immediately it really didn't matter even if somehow he wasn't. That was my daddy. He will always be my daddy. I am absolutely positive your children feel the same way about you. Because they are your children. And always will be. Thank you for being a good man. I understand this has probably altered your entire view of life itself, but those are your kids. Please do not ever forget that. Story 5. Caught my girlfriend sucking another man and it hurt so much. My girlfriend of 4 years is a really pretty woman and she's also a very caring person. Her parents are also good people, and she hangs out with good people. I find that people you choose to associate with is a reflection of yourself, and I use this metric every time. I find she's just a very lovely person. This morning I walked in on her sucking another man and my heart just wanted to stop. Like, I couldn't believe she was doing that to me. What hurt me the most is that she was just loving it. And the man she was having sex with knows who I am and knows that she's my girlfriend, yet he chose to F her mouth and ruin my relationship, and his excuse was your girlfriend is very attractive. While it's my girlfriend's fault, he contributed to that. Sometimes people can be so cruel. I don't know if I want to give her another chance because seeing how much she was liking it really destroyed my heart. Update: I want to give her another chance. I have never been a loser when it comes to dating, and I've always had my good share of attention from women. Desperation and sex aren't the reasons why I'm going to stay. I just like her. She has done so much for me over the years. She actually did the approaching. She was humble enough to buy me a drink just to talk to me. I can't believe everything she has done was fake. I want to believe it was just a mistake. I'll make it clear that it will take time for her to gain my trust again. She's asking me to stay and forgive her. I blocked her WhatsApp number before. She sent me an actual SMS begging me to unblock her and cried on the phone. Update 2. I was about to forgive her on WhatsApp, but at the very last moment I just decided to say, "Hun, you ain't all that. I'll find someone else. You can cry all you want." It made me feel so powerful and I don't regret it. It's officially over. Update 3. Reddit really has a problem with women and it's so sad. I still think she's a very good person. You don't know her, it's no masquerade. It's over and she does not deserve another chance, but I still don't want to call her a bad person because of what she did. Update 4. An objectively attractive woman bought me a drink, courted me, chased me. I dumped her as soon as I caught her cheating, but I'm still being called a loser and a simp and a beta male for simply saying she's a kind person. She is. Geez, being unnecessarily aggressive doesn't make you alpha. If anything, I should be praised for staying calm and cold in a very difficult circumstance. Sorry, bud, but she's not a nice person. Nice people don't cheat on others. The reason people are calling you a simp or beta is because you're actually defending a cheater by insisting they are nice. I'd never go so far to call you a simp or anything stupid like that, but this really isn't the stage you should be defending her at all. To be honest, it's like someone robbed you but you are trying to tell everyone that the robbers were really nice people because they had their reasons. No. They aren't nice. They could certainly reform or earn back that status, but not right after it happens. Nice people don't cheat on others, and to add on to it, with people they know? Dude. If she slept with your best friend, would she still be nice? Story 6. My wife cheated on me and says it's not her fault. This past weekend the kiddo and I went on a 2-day camping trip for some father-son bonding time. My wife doesn't like camping herself at all anymore and doesn't even appreciate our kid and I going. This is a big hobby for me and I want to share with my son. Usually we argue a lot about my trips, especially if I request to bring our child, but this time she was oddly cooperative about the whole thing, but still insisted she wouldn't join us. I was surprised but didn't question anything because I was so excited that she was finally allowing us to go and I didn't want her to change her mind. I thought we had finally found a common ground and the arguments were ending. I was wrong. We had a great trip and returned back on Monday. We expected to come home to an empty house as my wife should have been at her office for a few more hours. I walked the kid up to his room as he was exhausted and ready for a nap. After, I walked into our bedroom to find a naked man in my bed. I recognized him as my wife's coworker whom I have met numerous times at her work functions. At first I was in disbelief and even wondered if I was in the right house. Then my wife walked out of our bathroom also naked, and I had no more doubts. She looked petrified when she saw me. I have never been so angry. I yelled at the dude to get out of my house so I could speak to my wife. He grabbed his clothes and left. Then we started arguing. I never yell at my wife, we always want to keep things civil for our son, but I was so hurt I was screaming. Then my wife decides to get defensive, saying it's not her fault that I am barely around and camp so much, even though I hardly go on trips anymore because she doesn't like it. She says that's what drove me to do this, your neglect to this family. I was in tears at that point. I just don't understand how her cheating could be my fault. When I turned around to leave, my son was standing in the doorway and I felt terrible for yelling. I quickly consoled him, but my wife snapped at me again, telling me to get my hands off him. Now she won't speak to me and says I can't see my child until I apologize. Apologize for what? She said we could go on this trip. She planned to cheat and that kills me. It makes me wonder if she has done this before. I'm stuck staying with my parents right now. I don't know what to do, I want to see my son. I'm worried I really scared my child, and of course I would apologize to him, just not my wife, but maybe it is my fault. Update, I'm back home now, decided it was best to get here ASAP. Things are quiet, but I'm relieved to be back in the same space as my son. For the past week, I have been working with a lawyer to initiate the process of divorce and gaining full custody of my son, with the exception of visitation for now until more is resolved. Things were awkward and tense for the first few days of me being back home, so my wife, using wife to keep things simple and identities private, decided to leave to stay with the guy I found naked with her. I'm disappointed at the example she's setting for our son, but this makes my decision to divorce even more concrete. Update, my, now, ex-wife revealed she is pregnant with a man she cheated with and no longer wants to see our child. Last week I received several texts from my ex saying she was pregnant with an unknown man's child. Obviously meaning she cheated with multiple other people before the one I found out about. She said she plans to keep the baby and start a family with her coworker. Other posts have context. She also mentioned that she wouldn't be fighting me for custody of our son. I told her I would be willing to split the custody or at least keep visitation rights for the sake of the kiddo, but she insisted she didn't care about that anymore. I am honestly in awe. I'm shocked she has given up on everything about the family we had, but I am most hurt for my son. At the end of the day, she isn't worth wasting any more of my energy on. I have been spending every moment I can with my kid and will continue to do so. I'm starting to feel more like myself again and I can't wait to get back into adventures and nature. Story 7. Today I'll, 45M, have to tell my son, 28M, his new girlfriend's, 35F, child might be mine. There was no cheating involved whatsoever. I'd never do that to my own son. He's only been seeing her for about 4 months from what he's told me, but she and I dated 2 years ago. But it ended because I was going to be traveling out of work for months. We just lost contact. She has a 1.5-year-old son that is very likely my child. My son told me the father isn't involved but hasn't given him any other details other than it's just her raising the kid. I was the one to connected the dots as soon as I realized it was her. You can't imagine how unbelievably awkward the first time meeting was. Thankfully it was with other family members around, but she was just as freaked out as I was. This can't be kept a secret though. If this is my child, I need to know. And as much as it pains me to put my son in this messed up position, he needs to know too. He's coming over later on so we could talk. I'm beyond nervous. I really don't even know where to start explaining something like this to him. Update: yes, my son knows everything now. The conversation was not easy at all. My son was very confused and upset, as would anyone honestly. I expected him to yell at me, but the shock was too much for him to get a strong reaction, but he was still very serious. I made sure he knew I'd understand if this is too much for him, so whatever he needs from me I will try to do. As of right now he just needs some space. And I said in another comment that after our talk last night he messaged me about going over to her place so he can hear this from her too. Far as I know they have had their own talk. But not so sure about where they stand now. He didn't talk to me all day until he sent me a message earlier telling me he loves me, but he's gonna need some time to himself, which I completely understand. It's not gonna be something he'll easily get over. As far as paternity, well, we still don't know anything about that. I have communicated with her about finding a place where we can get this test done and out of the way, so we'll be doing that this week. It can't wait any longer, otherwise it's just gonna drive me crazy. Update: my son does know now about everything. He needed a little time to himself and they did decide in the end to mutually break up. They both knew it wasn't worth complicating things more down the line when they haven't been together that long. My son did admit to me he was a little sad about the relationship, but he's glad I told him before his feelings for her grew to love. We didn't talk much for almost a week because he was having a boys' trip with his close friends, and then he needed a little time to get used to all of this information. The good thing is we are talking again normally, which I am so grateful for. Seriously, it worried me how much this would affect my relationship with him. I'm happy he's been so open about his feelings. He tells me it's still crazy how all this happened. He told me he's accepted it though and might try dating again in another few weeks. It's not all perfect. At least we are talking like we always do though. And more than anything, I'm so happy he didn't hold what happened against me, since none of us knew about this until we all had dinner. Now for the part 1 know lots of you wanted to hear about. We did that paternity test and the results did confirm her son is also mine. Part of me just had a feeling he was anyway, but it didn't hurt to just know for sure. We have been communicating more and I've taken the time to come over to see him almost every day. He's not wary of strangers, in fact he's been pretty friendly, so that has really helped with trying to bond with him. Not my first rodeo as a dad obviously, but I still feel like I'm learning everything all over again after so long, and especially after missing so much time with him already. I've been able to hold him and play with him with his toys, which is a blast. It's just the fact that I have another son that I'll get to experience many new milestones with always makes me smile. My son knows about his half-brother now. He told me he'd like to meet him at some point in the future when it doesn't feel as weird. He never met him before that, I explained in a few comments, because they hadn't been dating long enough to introduce him. My son thinks it's kind of nice knowing he has a brother now. Again though, he told me he is going to need more time to adjust before he's comfortable with officially meeting him. And I understand that completely. So yeah, it's been quite a ride so far. You can imagine how busy it's been with a new kiddo to bond with and raise. We are currently working with a lawyer to get all the legal things set right away. I want to make sure I have my rights as a father and get my time with my son if she ever changes her mind about being compliant and decides to shut me out of his life again. Man, that is really one tough situation. Looks like you'll just have to wait out on this one for your son to calm down and process the situation. All the best wishes towards you and him. Story 8. My girlfriend is cheating on me. I've known my GF 6 months ago. I wasn't so invested in this relationship at first cause I thought that she doesn't want a serious one, then each time she says that I don't pay attention to her and she even started crying one time because of that. Then I started taking care of her and paying her more attention, calling her each day, taking her out and all. One day, it all started when I noticed that she has Tinder, then I found out that she received a gift from a boyfriend, then I found a conversation with another man full of heart and kisses. She removed me from those who can see her Instagram stories. She even told one time that she's going to sleep, then found out later on that day she was out having fun at a bar at 4 a.m. The worst thing is when I try to understand all of that, she says that I'm responsible cause I don't pay her attention or something like he's just a friend, or that she always go out with girls only and she never met a boy since we knew each other. Each time I forgave her. I even told her that she can do whatever she wants and I just wants to know what happens. Asked her if she wants a no-string-attached relationship. She denies everything and refuses. Few days ago, it was enough for me for all this shit and told her that we should take a break and stop talking for a week while I get back to the city. She said okay and even said that she will wait for me and she will never talk to a man or go out with one. 2 days later, I decided to make a fake Instagram account with some 3K-ish followers and follow her and talk to her. She was badly down for meeting my fake account. She sent me videos and pics that she's outside drinking in a fancy car. The best part is she even posted a story that I could see with my personal account of her with 2 other mans in a car in another city, and they passed the night together at one of the boys' apartment. Then yesterday, when she came back to her house, she called me on my personal number telling me that she missed me and those last days she was just sleeping on her couch thinking about me. Now I have all those screens and everything. I go back and pass a wonderful night with her telling her how much I love her and that I'm willing to marry her. And then when we wake up I send her all those screens. And left her like a piece of shit. Story 9. I cheated on my wife 3 years ago. She agreed to forgive me if we opened the marriage, but now I live in agony every day. So basically my wife, 39, found out that I, 41, have been hooking up with a woman I met online who lived 2h away. When the woman visited, we checked into a hotel. This went on for 3 months and we had met a handful of times when my wife caught us. She was waiting in the hotel lobby and saw us coming down from the room. She left me the next day. We separated for 8 months and they were terrible on all of us, especially the children, M9, F7 and F3. We started talking about getting back together. My wife thought that since our sex life wasn't enough for me, and that she was sure I will cheat on her again, we might as well open the marriage. I told her no because I've learned my mistake, but she wouldn't waver. I relented. We decided, she did, not to tell each other the when, where, and with whom. Now, over 2 years later, we are back to normal on the outside. On the inside, I'm dying a little each day. Every time I see her happy, I wonder if this is just her old bubbly self or if she was thinking of someone. She is a very beautiful woman and I'm sure she has no problems finding men who want her. Whenever she takes a shower after coming home, whenever she rejects my advances, I think that she has been with someone and that kills me. I have tried to discuss closing the marriage again, but she shuts these attempts very quickly with the divorce card. Before all this happened, we had amazing sex several times a week, but now, we have probably done it 4 to 5 times these past 3 years. She demands I use protection and she refuses to let me eat her or make her come in any way. I stopped asking because the sex is painfully bad now. I haven't slept with anybody else because the look on my wife's face in that lobby still makes me sick with guilt. I don't know how much more I can take. I love my wife and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. So you had great sex life but you needed to cheat. Okay. Divorce or let it go. You brought this in yourself.